Hi friend, and welcome back to another episode of From the Depths. I'm Steph, and I'm super glad you're joining me today to talk all about creating the 2.0 you. So you want more out of your life. You want to stop wasting your life away by chasing temporary highs and dopamine hits from binge watching Netflix and doom scrolling on social media. And you want to create and embody a version of yourself that brings true fulfillment and happiness. You want to get off the 9-to-5 hamster wheel and step into your highest purpose and potential and be of service to this world in a way that most people either ignore or give up on entirely. You want fulfilling relationships that are based on a foundation of mutual respect and trust, and you want to be able to express yourself fully without fear of what others will think of you for doing so. So what exactly does it take to achieve this? Like a snake shedding its skin, it will require a shedding of the current version of yourself in order to fully embody the person you came here to be. Before we can shed this layer, we have to come to a place of loving ourselves exactly where we are right now. If you haven't seen my video all about embracing the 1.0 version of yourself, go ahead and click here. When we seek change from a place of fear or shame, we inevitably end up in a negative feedback loop and get stuck in a repetitive cycle. And the more we reinforce that cycle, the harder it can be to come out of it. So we need to view growth from a place of loving ourselves into higher levels rather than shaming ourselves into the mental trap that will keep us small and imprisoned by our own minds. Once we fully embrace the 1.0 self, then we are ready to take the next step into our 2.0 version. So introducing you 2.0. When you are ready to make a change in your life, you'll feel it in your body. Your body will indicate that it's time and you are ready to move into action. The snake intuitively knows when a new layer is ready and it's time to shed the old. Like the snake, you can trust your instincts and intuition to help guide you through this process. So what do we need to do to create the 2.0 self? Well, physical action is always preceded by thought. So before we take any physical action, we need to take mental action. We need to start seeing ourselves differently and shift our self-concept and internal beliefs that drive all of our behavior. Once we do that, the behavior and actions that follow will naturally fall into place, or we will seek out the tools and resources required to help guide our actions. So here are the steps to creating the 2.0 you. The first is clarity, getting clear on who you want to be. Here are a few journal questions to reflect on. What kind of life do you want to live, and how do you need to show up day in and day out to achieve that? What kind of habits does this version of you have? How do they carry themselves? How do they dress? How do they style their hair? What do they believe about themselves? Really dig deep and get specific with the vision you have for yourself and your life. Make it as clear as possible. Step 2 is evaluate the gap. So where in your life are you already doing the things that you've just reflected on? What beliefs do you already possess that align with your desired reality? Now, where in your life are you not quite yet in alignment with this version of yourself? Where is there room for growth? Take a good look at that gap in between those two versions, the 1.0 you and the 2.0 you. What differences do you see between those two versions of yourself? You could think of this comparison like a find the difference picture in one of those highlight magazines from when you were a kid. The third step is understanding your why. So we hear people talk all the time about how important it is to know your why. Simon Sinek even wrote a whole book about it. Your raison d'etre, your reason for being. Why do you want what you want? Why is this so important to you? We have to become aware of what is driving us, because without that awareness, we default to living life on autopilot. In the exact same way that we can drive home from work or school without even being consciously aware that we were driving, and we get home and suddenly realize we've been completely zoned out the whole time, we do the same thing with our lives. We get into these grooves that are so well worn that we just naturally fall into them without even being fully aware that that's what's happening. These behavior patterns just continually reinforce themselves until we can become fully awake and stop zoning out to our routines and patterns. What you're going to do is write out one of the areas where you'd like to see some growth and what that vision is that you have for yourself. Then you're going to ask yourself, why do I want this change? And write down the answer. Now, don't just stop there. You're going to continue to ask why this is important to you 7 times. Keep going until you hit the deepest level that you can get to, and there you're going to find your core motivation. Now, this exercise can be a little challenging, so don't let yourself off the hook when it gets hard. Just keep digging deeper until you reach the root of what is driving this change for you and why it's so important to you. You could try this with a trusted friend or partner if that's a little bit easier. So once you have clarity and you know why this is important to you, we want to start creating some new habitual thought patterns. So the 1.0 version of yourself is going to fight for its life. It's going to try to fight to keep you small and in your comfort zone. The lizard brain wants to preserve energy for survival, and it fears change. This part of your brain would rather accept an uncomfortable known than a comfortable unknown. If the mind can't control the outcome, it wants to fight back and sabotage. This is why it is so important to love this version of yourself that you are now and not try to make it bad. It's not bad, it's just not where you want to stay permanently. So give this version of yourself more love and more kindness than you think is even necessary. This will begin to shift your thought patterns into ones that are naturally more positive, which will allow you to affect change. So practice allowing the old programs to run without your attachment to them. The best way to do this is to develop a stillness meditation practice where you allow your mind to do its thing and you don't move your body. Even 15 to 20 minutes a day of sitting in stillness and allowing the thoughts to just run rampant without attaching to them, just letting them come and letting them go, knowing that those thoughts are ultimately not who you are and they're just programs that have been running on autopilot since forever. The only thing you need to control is your body. If you feel an itch on your face, don't itch it. If you feel like you need to get up and move around, don't. You just got to sit there and let the thoughts happen. Let that uncomfortable feeling be present while you avoid taking any action. So you're going to need to get really familiar with allowing the mind to go do its thing without acting out on it in any way. This means not turning to drugs or alcohol or your phone, social media, food, whatever it might be, when uncomfortable feelings arise. We have to develop the capacity to sit with our thoughts and emotions and let them pass naturally and self-soothe without looking to the external. And finally, we need to stay aware or awake throughout our day. Just like the driving example I mentioned previously, the more that we zone out in our day, the more our unconscious patterns and habits will be running our lives. We can think of this sort of like it's in our zombie state. You're only as enlightened as the percentage of your day that you remain awake. The habits and conditioned thought and emotional patterns that run our system are not an indication of who we truly are, and they take over when we aren't staying aware of them. So a few strategies to stay awake. You can set timers on your phone for every hour, but you're going to need to change it up because if you keep the same timers every day, it's just going to become another typical routine and your mind is just going to completely ignore it and get used to clicking off on those. Second step is to observe your patterns and catch the triggers. Start becoming more aware of what your habitual patterns are and what triggers them. So if you find yourself turning to alcohol, social media, food, etc., what happened right before that moment that triggered your body to turn to this item for comfort? Make a note on your phone that you keep track of each instance that you become aware of. Were you bored? Did something stressful happen? Were you avoiding having to do something that required some real mental effort? Keeping a log of these things will allow you to become aware of the patterns and catch the triggers sooner. Third, you can create associations. So develop routines that you associate with waking up out of your zombie state. And remember which version of yourself you want to be. So for instance, every time you put your shoes on, remind yourself to wake up and become 2.0 you. Leave little notes in certain places like your bathroom mirror, so when you brush your teeth in the morning, you can associate that with remembering to wake up. You begin to associate certain locations or items with snapping you out of your habituated self and being fully present. When you have clarity on your direction, understand your deep why, and you're staying awake through the majority of your day through new habitual thought patterns, the actions that you're going to take will shift and you'll begin to show up in your life differently. You'll learn new things about yourself, you'll feel more ready to take on new challenges, and you're going to shift into the new identity that you are creating. Gradually, you'll begin to attract different types of people and experiences that will feel more aligned with the life that you desire, and you will be thanking this current version of yourself for putting in the dedicated effort towards growth. So while there's nothing wrong with 1.0 you, and this version deserves all the love, stepping into the 2.0 you is going to feel like shedding an old layer that is no longer serving you and embodying the highest version of yourself. That person is already inside of you. It's just waiting to be set free. I hope you enjoyed today's episode. If you got anything out of it, please do me a favor and like this video and hit the subscribe button. I'll be back next week with another video, and until then, my friends, keep rising.